Now let's talk about formal internships. So many big companies will arrange and offer formal internships for graduates or students working through university. And typically that's experienced through the first year of university and the second year of university. The third year, yes, as well, right, but then, of course, typically, those are through first year, second, and third year. Although often people in the third year are really, you're out, right? Depends on when in the third year, right? You may have finished university already before that internship happens. The dream reality is you do your internship at some company, and you're such a great star, and they love you so much they give you a return internship, or even better, they say come back and you can do our graduate program, right? Which is great. Okay. And so that's what a lot of individuals are striving for with those formal internships. That's why do you want a formal internship? Well, because you're on the books, right? You come in through the front door, you are one of 20, for example, interns in the summer period or the spring period or whenever. And you then ideally through that process, through those 4, 5, 6 weeks or however long, because every company is different, you then ideally get tapped on the shoulder. This is the dream. You get the tap on the shoulder saying, we'd love to have you, come back for a graduate position next year. Right. Wonderful. Look, that can be really cool. That's the golden path, as the phrase goes. Wonderful. Really exciting. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes never happens. So, steel yourself for that, right? But these internships are really helpful for creating connections with the other interns who come in that you will probably not know because they'll be from other institutions. A great way of developing relationships with those guys, and also an excellent way of developing relationships and getting practical experience across that period of time in that organization. It can look $1 million on your CV, and this is why there's huge competition for those one-page CVs to fill them out. Right, that one-page graduate CV, which says, for example, IBM internship, JP Morgan internship, and then Union Bank of Switzerland or UBS internship, right? And they can look really impressive, and that can position you very nicely for that graduate position, because you ideally have a good degree from a good university. Right? Sometimes that can influence things, sometimes not. But then you've got your experience, you've got your internship experience, and even if you haven't been tapped on the shoulder and given a guarantee for the graduate program, at least you're looking great, and then ideally you get through. Right? Every organization is very different with how they do graduate recruitment. If you don't go through that process, if it doesn't work for you, it's okay. Some people are massively distraught. My life's over. I've had comments like that on TikTok, and with some of the one-to-ones I've been doing, that is absolutely not the case. You don't have to do the graduate program. Sometimes graduate programs are useless. And also, let me highlight, sometimes internships, especially formal internships, can be completely useless. Turn up, smile, and you're essentially doing the modern version of photocopying, getting people lunch, right? So sometimes these formal internships can be really bad, okay? But, how do you make best use of them? Well, network. That's everything, right? By all means, experience, right? But across 4 weeks, 5 weeks, yes, you might be able to work on a presentation, you might be able to do this thing or that thing, but across 4 or 5 weeks, you're not really going to have that much opportunity to do anything, as the phrase goes, anything material. But you'll be able to hopefully try and get some good bullet points. And in your mind, bullet points for your CV, in your mind, when you're going through these internships, that's what you're looking at. I've got lots of video advice on my TikTok about this, your internships, and how you manage that 4 or 5, that process, those weeks is very important, right? But it really fundamentally comes down to networking. So making those relationships with individuals that you can then add on LinkedIn and ideally on WhatsApp, and you can be keeping a constant and continual dialogue with them across the year or the next years as you're going through university. And then their contacts, they're people that you can rely upon to give you advice, perspective, and maybe even hire you or give you the opportunities for hiring in the future. So yes, we want CV bullet points out of those internships, And you should be thinking about that when you're working through the process. So when someone says, oh, we'd like you to write a presentation, great, bullet point, write that down. That's a bullet point. I wrote a presentation. Yes, who's that for? I wrote a presentation for this team, right? Okay, it's a great opportunity. So make sure that you're recording everything every week. Sit down and write what you did, sometimes daily, right? So you don't forget. So you can then create the really good 3, 4, 5 or more bullet points outlining the experience you got working at this company in a formal internship. Now, there's also informal internships or informal work experience, we probably call that. Do give some thought to that, right? Sometimes your networking can create internships for you. As there's an example of a guy he was in TikTok live recently, and he went to an event at university. He was at university. Year one, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was in year one. And he went to a number of different events. He's studying graphic design, if memory serves. He went to a number of different networking events outside of university. He met some people, he did some networking, some relationship building, and he met the owner of a graphic design studio. And he stayed in touch with the individual, swapped some messages across the year, and then he actually sent the individual a note saying, hey, I don't suppose I had to do an internship in the spring. Do you have any opportunities? And he did an internship there, right? So the guy made an internship. Basically, they just made some work experience for him, right? So they made it for him. They didn't do that before. They'd never done it before, but because they met the guy and they liked the guy and it was free for them, they said, yeah, cool. Now, he had a great time. It was exactly what he wanted. Guess what? He came out and I think he actually said, I think he had another internship and then a job. He's working there now. So it's not just about formal internships, right? It's also about informal ones, right? Informal work experience where you can simply say, look, I need to do some work experience this summer. Do you think I could come and work with you? You ask the question and then you see what happens. And ideally, you get a positive response. Okay, so the formal internships, and by all means Google them. There's lots of resources on the internet for how to find big companies that are offering formal internships, but don't forget the informal one, right? And that's all about who you know and who you can connect with. For example, I'm going to come to networking, but your professor, your lecturers will likely have quite a lot of connections in industry. Your careers team should have lots of connections in industry. They may be able to arrange or help you meet individuals who you could then engage with and then create and secure your internship with. Right. Okay, let's stop there. Thank you. Let's move on now.